In this lesson, we're going to go over preparing the Git settings. So if it is your first time working with Git, there is one more thing you have to do before you start working on your first project using Git. You want to set the name and email of your user in the configuration file or settings file. This is important because when you look at your project history, you will want to know who made which changes. But before we do this, let me introduce some other commands. So the ls command is a command that lists all the files in a folder. Let's see this in action. So we are in the Finder, and we can see all the files in the Finder, and also in the terminal we can see we're in the home folder, and we type in ls, and now the files that we see in the terminal should be the same ones that are in the Finder window on the left-hand side. But these are all normal files, and there's another kind of file called a hidden file. Hidden files are files whose file name starts with a dot. In order to see them in the Finder, you have to press Command-Shift-Dot. And in order to see them in the terminal, you type in the ls command with the -a option. So in the Finder, you have to press Command-Shift-Dot, and then you can see all the hidden files that are grayed out. On the other hand, in the terminal, you have to type in ls-a, and here you can see once again all the hidden files. So now we covered how to see normal files and hidden files, but there's one hidden file in particular that I want to point out. So here you can see that we have a file called .git config. Let's open it up. We can see that there's nothing in there. All it says is this is Git's per user configuration file. Now the next thing that I want to do is actually set the name and email for the user for our Git. So in order to do this, we're going to use a command, Git Config. So the Git Config command lets you see and set the Git options or settings. So in order to see them, you will write Git Config and then the name of the option you want to see. And in order to set them, you will write Git Config -- global, the name of the option, and the value that you want to give it. So let's see this in action. So first we're going to type in git config user.name. So that's the name of the option, and we can see that there's nothing there. Now if we type in git config -- global user.name and pass in the value, we've set the value. So now if we type in git config user.name again, we can see that it gives us this value. And now if we open up the .git config file, we can see that it set the name for our user. Now let's do the same for email. Git config -- global user.email, and then pass in the value. And now if we open the .git config file once again, we can see that now the email is set as well. So that was how to set the username and the email so that when we use Git, we know who made which changes. To quickly overview, in this lesson, we covered how to set the name and email we want to use with Git. That was it for this lesson. See you at the next one.